This happened about 5 years ago, when I was living in a quiet suburban neighborhood in upstate New York. My house was at the very end of a cul-de-sac, so we never got random cars driving through, just the same neighbors' vehicles. It was the kind of place where kids rode their bikes in the street, and you could tell whose car was whose just by glancing out the window. The first time I noticed anything weird was one Tuesday night, around 9 p.m. I was chilling on the couch with my Labrador retriever, Max, who's usually super laid back. Out of nowhere, he started this low, rumbling growl, staring hard out the living room window. I looked out, and there was this dark sedan. Nothing special, like a Honda Civic or Toyota Camry, parked 3 houses down. No headlights, just sitting there in the dark. I thought, okay, maybe someone's visiting, grabbing something from their trunk or whatever. I watched for a minute, but nobody got in or out, and no lights came on inside the car. Max was still tense, but I figured it was just a stray cat or something. I shrugged it off, told him to chill, and went back to what I was doing. He settled down eventually. I didn't think about it again for a few days. Then, Thursday or Friday night, I was taking the trash out around 11 p.m., and there was that same car again. Same exact spot, headlights off, totally still. I was like, okay, that's a little weird. It wasn't enough to freak me out, but it felt off for our cul-de-sac, where random cars just don't hang out like that after dark. I dragged the bins to the curb, kept an eye on it, and went back inside. Over the next 2 weeks, it kept happening. Not every night, but 3 or 4 times a week, I'd see that car. I'd notice it when I got home from work, or while I was making dinner, or when I took Max out for his last walk. Always after dark, always that same dark sedan. Always in that exact spot, headlights off, just sitting there. It was never there in the mornings. It would show up at dusk and be gone by dawn, like clockwork. That's when it started feeling wrong. That casual whatever vibe I had at first turned into this deep, nagging unease that I couldn't shake. I'd find myself sneaking glances through the blinds, trying to catch someone getting in or out, just hoping for some normal explanation. But I never saw anything. The car always looked empty, or if someone was inside, they were so still, so hidden in the dark, I couldn't tell. Max's reactions got more intense too. Every time we went out after dark and that car was there, he'd get all stiff, sniff the air like crazy, and let out that low, unhappy growl he only used for serious stuff. That's when I knew this wasn't just me being paranoid. It was something real. The worst part was not having any logical explanation. I tried to reason it out. Maybe a private detective, maybe teenagers messing around, but nothing made sense. That car just sat there, this silent, dark shape that started feeling like it was watching my house, or maybe the whole street. The idea of being watched, even without proof, started getting under my skin big time. Then the car's behavior changed, just a little. One night I noticed it was there, but when I checked again 20 minutes later, it had moved, like a car length closer to the corner. Another night, it was gone for an hour, then pulled back into the same spot. A couple of times, I saw its brake lights or reverse lights flash for a second, like someone was repositioning but trying to stay low-key. It wasn't just idling. It felt deliberate, like someone was testing something, watching carefully. The creepiest night was during this awful rainstorm. It was around 1 a.m., and the rain was coming down so hard I could barely see out the window. I got up to check the weather, and there it was. That car, still there, headlights off, sitting in the pouring rain. A cold chill ran through me. Nobody just sits in a car for hours in a storm like that unless they've got a really specific, really bad reason. After that, I was on edge all the time. I started triple-checking every lock in the house, pulling the curtains tight, waking up in the middle of the night thinking, is that car still out there? The The feeling of being watched was everywhere, even if I couldn't prove it. Then, about 3 days after that rainy night, our neighborhood group chat blew up. A house 3 streets over, in another cul-de-sac just like mine, got burglarized. And not some sloppy, spur-of-the-moment thing. This was planned. The alarm was bypassed, they knew exactly where to go, and they only took the good stuff: jewelry, electronics, cash. The family was out of town. It hit me like a punch to the gut. My stomach just dropped. Every single thing about that car, how it showed up for weeks, the way it shifted positions, the way it sat there so still, Max's warnings. It all came together. It wasn't a lost driver. It wasn't kids. They were casing the neighborhood, learning our routines, picking out targets. Maybe my house, maybe my neighbors. And that's when the guilt hit me like a freight train. I should have called the cops. God, I should have done something. I never found out if that specific car was tied to that exact burglary, or if my house was their main focus. But the timing, the way that robbery went down, so slick, so professional, and the way that car just kept showing up, silent and persistent. It's too much to be a coincidence. It wasn't just some weird moment. It was a terrifying close call. The thought of who was in that car, what they were planning, and how they just slipped away still gives me the creeps. Some things you just hope you never run into again, especially when you realize they might have been watching you for weeks, right outside your window, and you just let it slide. This happened when I was like 14 or 15, back in the mid-2000s, when we were all obsessed with our flip phones and MySpace was the big thing. It was a Friday night sleepover at my friend Sarah's place, just a regular suburban house with a beat-up basketball hoop out front and a tiny backyard with a rusty fence. Her parents were super chill, letting me, Sarah, Emily, and Chloe have the whole basement to ourselves. We were sprawled out on sleeping bags, surrounded by empty Doritos bags, sticky Mountain Dew cans, and a pile of horror DVDs we got from Blockbuster. Scream 2 was on, the TV's glow flickering across the room, mixing with the smell of old popcorn and that gross, damp carpet vibe basements always have. A PlayStation 2 was humming in the corner, totally ignored while we goofed off, laughing about dumb stuff from school. The basement had these 2 big, kinda janky sliding glass windows looking out to the backyard. Sarah's dad had these motion sensor lights out there that'd go off for, like anything, a stray cat, a random breeze. By midnight, we were so used to them clicking on and off that we barely noticed. The fridge in the corner was humming louder anyway, this annoying drone that never stopped. We were halfway through the movie, half watching, half talking about some guy in math class, when the motion light by Sarah's sleeping bag flicked on. Just a quick flash, then off. I didn't even care, too zoned out from chugging soda. Probably a cat, I thought, whatever. Then it flicked on again. And off. Way slower this time, like it was messing with us, not the usual quick zap. Emily didn't even look away from the TV, her voice a low murmur. "Dude, your dad's motion light is going nuts." Sarah barely glanced over, her tone dismissive. "Yeah, whatever. Happens all the time." But then the light just stayed on, like wouldn't shut off. This bright, harsh glow lit up the backyard, hitting the big oak tree and some patchy grass, all wet with dew. We all stopped talking. The movie's cheesy screams sounded way too loud, bouncing around the quiet. My stomach got all tight, and we all turned to the window, totally weirded out. Through the glass, past our own freaked-out faces reflecting back, the yard looked empty. Just that stupid light, glaring like it was trying to tell us something. It stayed on forever, 30 seconds, maybe a minute, and my heart was pounding. Why is it not turning off? The silence was heavy, making my skin crawl. Then, click. It went dark. Chloe's voice was barely a whisper, a nervous tremor evident. Okay, that was weird. We let out these shaky, nervous giggles, trying to play it off, but it wasn't funny. The room felt off, like the air was thicker. I kept sneaking looks at the window, the TV's light throwing creepy shadows on the walls, making me jumpy. 5 minutes later, the light snapped back on, bright as hell, like a freaking spotlight. And there, right by the oak tree, was a figure. It was blurry, the glass all smudged and the light too bright, but it was totally a person. Tall, super still, just standing there, facing the house. My breath got stuck, my whole body going cold, like ice in my veins. Our nervous giggles died instantly, replaced by a suffocating silence. Emily's voice was barely a whisper, strained and raw as she breathed. "What is that?" Sarah, who's usually the tough one, just stared, her eyes huge, a soft mumble escaping her lips. Is that my dad?" Even as she said it, she knew it wasn't. Her dad doesn't creep around the yard at midnight. And this thing, it was too still, like a creepy statue, not moving a muscle. It felt like it was staring right at us, and my stomach flipped, my hands shaking like crazy. We were frozen, 4 kids stuck on the floor, eyes glued to that freaky shape. The light stayed on, throwing long, creepy shadows from the tree, like fingers reaching out. My heart was slamming so hard I could hear it, my hands sweaty, sticking to my sleeping bag. The basement felt freezing all of a sudden, even with the heater buzzing. After what felt like forever, probably just a minute or two, the figure raised its arm, super slow, like it was on purpose. Then its hand pointed right at our window, right at us. My heart stopped, my stomach twisting like I was gonna puke. That's when we properly freaked out. Emily let out a strangled shriek, this high-pitched noise that cut through everything. Sarah choked out a gasp, all shaky and desperate. Chloe was shaking so bad her teeth were clicking, loud in the quiet. I grabbed a ratty old blanket, yanking it over me like it'd make me disappear, my whole body trembling like I was gonna fall apart. We scrambled behind the big lumpy couch, crawling on our hands and knees, the carpet scratching my skin. We huddled up, squished together, shaking so hard the couch was practically vibrating. Nobody looked back. Nobody said anything except these scared little whimpers, our breathing all messed up and loud. The light clicked off, everything going pitch black, but I could still see that pointing hand in my head, like it was burned there. We stayed behind that couch forever, like hours just listening. Every creak in the house, every leaf rustling outside, every car way down the street sounded like someone coming for us. My throat was all scratchy from whispering, freaking out about who it could have been. Some creepy dude, a prank from older kids, something worse. My brain was going nuts, picturing all kinds of bad stuff. Sarah's parents were upstairs, totally clueless, and we couldn't make ourselves go get them, like we'd sound insane or something. We were stuck, just us, scared out of our minds. Finally, when this faint gray dawn light started sneaking through the window, the yard looked normal again. Just the tree, the light, some wet grass. We peeked over the couch, all stiff and sore, my hands still shaky. It was empty. Nothing there. We never told Sarah's parents. We made this pact to keep it secret, scared they'd think we were nuts, or we'd get in trouble for not waking them up. My hands were all wobbly as I packed my stuff, my eyes burning, not from being tired, but from being so freaked out. We bailed early, saying we were just sleepy, but it was the fear weighing us down. To this day, none of us know what or who was out there. It wasn't a shadow or some trick of the light. We all saw it, no question. That slow, creepy point, it still gives me chills, like a knot in my gut that won't go away. Maybe it was some weirdo messing with us, but some stuff you never figure out. It just sticks with you, like a bad dream you can't shake. This happened in June 2024, when I was 19. My parents and I had just moved into a new house in a small suburb about 30 minutes from our old apartment. It's a one-story place, kind of run down, with a sagging porch and a patchy lawn, but it was all my parents could afford, and they were excited to finally have a yard. The real estate agent, Karen, was this high-energy woman in her 40s who kept calling the place cozy and full of potential. She said the previous owner, a guy named Mr. Willis, had lived there alone for years and was moving to a condo nearby. Her sales pitch felt a little forced, like she was trying to gloss over the house's flaws. When we toured the place, Mr. Willis was there, a gruff guy in his 60s with a scruffy beard and work boots. He was friendly enough, showing my parents the garage and talking about how he'd fixed up the place himself. But something about him felt off. I was hanging out by the front door, checking my phone, and noticed him glance at me a few times. When my parents were distracted, asking about the water heater, his smile dropped, and he just stared at me. Not angry, but like he was sizing me up. It was quick, maybe a second, but it made my skin crawl. I told my mom later, and she said he was probably just awkward around strangers. We moved in a couple of weeks later, mid-June. The first few days were chaotic. Boxes stacked everywhere, my dad arguing with the Wi-Fi guy, my mom scrubbing decades of grime off the kitchen counters. On a Wednesday night, my parents went to a coworker's dinner party about 20 minutes away, leaving me home alone. I was cool with it, sprawled on the couch with some leftover Chinese food, scrolling through TikTok. It was around 8 p.m., still light out but getting dim, and the house was quiet except for the hum of the fridge. Then I heard this weird scratching noise outside, like someone dragging their nails along the wooden siding near the back door. It was slow, almost rhythmic, and went on for maybe 20 seconds. I muted my phone and listened, heart starting to race. I figured it could be a branch from the overgrown bushes out back. We hadn't trimmed anything yet. I got up, checked the back window, but it was too dark to see much, just shadows from the neighbor's trees. I made sure the back door was locked and tried to shake it off, telling myself I was being paranoid. About 15 minutes later, I heard a soft thud, like someone had bumped into a chair in the dining room, which is right off the kitchen. My stomach dropped. I grabbed my phone and a pocket knife from my bag. Dumb, I know, but it was the only thing nearby. I crept to the hallway, flicked on every light I could, and locked myself in my bedroom. My hands were shaking as I texted my mom. Heard something in the house, locked in my room. Come home now. She replied that they were leaving and would be back in 15 minutes. I called 911, whispering to the operator about the noises. She told me to stay put and said the cops were 10 minutes out. Then I heard footsteps, slow, heavy, like boots on the linoleum floor in the kitchen. There was a faint clink, like someone setting a mug on the counter, and then the sound of a cabinet door creaking open. I was crouched by my bed, gripping the knife, barely breathing. The footsteps moved through the dining room, closer to the hallway. I could hear the floorboards squeak under the weight. They stopped maybe 10 feet from my door, and I heard a low mutter, like someone talking to themselves, too quiet to make out the words. It lasted maybe 10 seconds. Then the footsteps headed back toward the kitchen. I heard the back door's handle rattle, like someone was testing it. Then a soft click as it opened and closed. The police got there a few minutes later. I let them in, still freaked out, my voice shaking as I explained. They searched the house, the backyard, even the alley behind the fence. Nothing. No forced entry, no footprints in the dirt outside. But they noticed a mug on the kitchen counter, one we hadn't unpacked yet, sitting out like someone had used it. I swore to the cops it wasn't there before. I'd been eating straight from the takeout container. My parents got home right after, and my mom hugged me, saying maybe it was just the house settling or a neighbor's prank. My dad checked the back door and found the lock was sticky, like it didn't catch properly unless you slammed it. The next day, my dad found something weird in the backyard, a small pile of cigarette butts tucked behind the bushes, fresh enough that they weren't weathered. We don't smoke, and the neighbors on both sides are older couples who don't either. My parents called Karen to ask if Mr. Willis had been back to the house for any reason, like to pick up mail. She said he'd moved to his condo 10 miles away and had no reason to come back, but she sounded annoyed, like we were bothering her. My dad pushed, asking if he still had a key, and she insisted all keys had been turned over. I haven't felt right in the house since. I'm staying with a friend for now, and my parents are getting a locksmith to rekey everything and add a deadbolt. Every time I think about those footsteps, the muttering, and those cigarette butts, I get this pit in my stomach. I don't know if it was Mr. Willis or some random creep who knew the house, but it felt like they were way too comfortable in our space. Has anyone else had a weird run-in like this after moving somewhere new? I'm still rattled and could use some advice on feeling safe again.